We're going to learn a lot about Uphold today. How many of you guys are using Uphold in the audience? I'm kind of curious. Oh, this is the right crowd for you guys.
Sounds like it.
All right, so let's get into a couple of things, and I want to get into some of the details. You guys are going to dive in a little bit more on the infrastructure behind Uphold, which is super important for not only the development of XRP, but the ledger itself. So a lot going on there. When you look at trends right now in terms of the market, and especially for Uphold, Robin, where do you see that going? Kind of what's the next step that you guys are into?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having us. This is a huge event for Uphold because there's so many customers and getting great feedback and so forth. Most of you probably know Uphold from the retail side of the business, right? The wallet side of the business. So what I do and my team does is all of that stuff that you see, that functionality that you see in the retail app is available in our platform at a platform level. And then we're able to offer that functionality to other companies. So I'll talk about some of the use cases and so forth, but just a really simple example would be even a large brokerage. Okay, so we're launching, or we launched this week, but it's being announced on Monday, a very large broker in the UK where they have many tens of thousands of users, and it's a public company, et cetera, et cetera. You would think that they would just, if they wanted to offer crypto themselves, that they would, be able to figure that out, hire people, yada, yada, yada. But it takes a really long time. And Uphold has been around for 11 years. I think we just had our 11th year anniversary. And there's, thank you. I've been there almost 10, believe it or not. I started when I was 14. At any rate, but because we have that infrastructure, we have the licensing, the easy onboarding, someone can just put in their debit card, all of that stuff is available in a way where this broker could keep their customer base. So it's separate from the Uphold app, right? It's expanding the functionality that you see in the Uphold app to other apps, right? Even potentially competitor apps. But the idea is that sort of like what Brad was talking about earlier, we're just expanding the pie and helping mass adoption because we're allowing other companies to leverage all the stuff that we've built. And I'll stop talking.
I think you hit on something though, and that is the adoption curves that we're seeing obviously in digital assets right now. But if you look at XRPL and what that is going to look like in terms of adoption, is it nearby? Are we talking? I mean, it feels like XRPL is setting up for a ninjutsu strike of some sort. A lot happening right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, so we're a big supporter of XRPL and the stable coin for XRP, et cetera. And yeah, those things are now being used in ways, right. Cross-border payments is a big use case for us. And really it gets down to, maybe it was David Schwartz who said yesterday that, sometimes it's just, a little bit boring, the reasons why these big businesses start to use, to go on chain. It's going to come down to, is it cheaper, faster, better? I mean, it's kind of that simple. And because otherwise they're not getting into it for the philosophy of it or so forth. So you kind of have to just pitch on, well, what if I could, get that money there faster for you, right? What if I could get there cheaper there for you, et cetera. And I think this is a use case that's been discussed at the conference already, but cross-border payments is a mess. It's a real mess. I mean, so if you're sending money from, let's say, the United States even to Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going, in one hop, right? It's going through multiple banks, everyone's taking their cut, et cetera, et cetera. If you do it through stablecoin and you send it, across the XRPL, it's instant. And not only is the messaging instant that the money went from A to B, I mean, that's not hard, but it's the actual value travels with that data.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because otherwise what they have to do is you have to keep money in banks all over the world just to satisfy a movement of money.
Yeah, well, and I think the growth of where the ledger is moving now, we're seeing a lot more developer adoption, so most likely, and some of the hackathons are really starting to yield some pretty interesting ideas. So it's going to be exciting to see how you guys start to develop within that. I want to jump to you, Robin, and really get into, or Anthony, I want to get to you about the partnerships around Ripple ODL.
Right.
And when you look about, just in general, I think a lot of people don't understand the backside of what's happening at Uphold. Can you kind of give us a little bit more?
That's right. I mean, it's pretty much as Robin said. Cross-border remittance is one of the killer use cases for crypto. Of all of the layer ones out there, it's arguable that Ripple and the XRPL is demonstrating more real-world utility outside of speculation or that on the other chains than any other layer one out there. In that, it is powering instantaneous transfers of billions of dollars cross-border globally.
Yeah.
And it's doing that today. And I know that because Uphold, as a long-term partner of Ripple, is what we call a payout partner. So we're a medium-sized or a small-sized cog within that wheel. And I think you know generally how XRP is powering this, but you might not know exactly how, and I can explain it. So the way it works is Company A in America wants to send, say, 10 million pounds sterling to Company B in the UK. So Company A CFO logs on to Ripple Payment Net, types in 10 million pounds, destination, gets a quote, that's $13 million or whatever the exchange rate is. The moment that CFO presses enter, 10 million pounds worth of XRP is immediately deposited into an Uphold UK account, immediately transferred into sterling, and sent to the customer immediately via the faster payments network. And the irony in all of this is that the customer will get the funds probably before Ripple does from customer A, because they're using a 3-day settlement on ACH. But we've transferred 10 million pounds worth of value from the United States to the United Kingdom in a matter of seconds, all via API. So we've been supporting payouts in the UK, in Europe, do a little bit in the States, but the hope and the plan is to be able to expand that support into South America, the Middle East, and Asia. So, you know, it's in terms of utility, XRP is powering genuine utility around the world today in real terms.
When you look at the potential for stablecoins moving forward, what do you see there? Because right now we're still seeing very light use, globally, even in the major financial institutions moving forward.
Most of the stablecoin use is really by companies like us in the background. We're shifting value between exchanges, between countries very, very quickly in order to cover our trading requirements. It's funny actually, Brad mentioned it earlier, that they've acquired Hidden Road, and I thought that was a genius move by Ripple actually. Why? Because actually to get traction to the point of competing with Circle and Tether is hard, right? Because they're incumbents. But these institutional flows in the background, and he quoted, I believe, Hidden Road do around 3 trillion a year. By introducing RLUSD, and I would imagine because Hidden Road is now acquired by Ripple, there'll be incentives, shall we say, to use RLUSD to settle. I think we're going to start to see, real momentum on RLUSD, which is really, really interesting. And then the XRPL is not obviously only supporting that. It's got, I think, either last week or the week before, the first MiCA-compliant stablecoin. There's the US USDB from Brazza is launching on there. So there's a very, very strong future for stablecoins in terms of cross-border remittance and just general support for liquidity.
Can I add to that? I mean, so the trigger effect is obviously the changes we've seen this year, right? So it's sort of, and that's been talked about in many of the panelists before us. But at that point, there's this acceptance for, because this is like old school use case money. Like I'm paying my supplier, right? Actually, I met somebody yesterday, and they were explaining how they do something like $6 billion of SWIFT transactions, which means that's like bank payout
Bank to bank
transactions. For settling the purchase of airplanes, right? This is just somebody I met yesterday here, and so when they do that, you know, what happens is it goes through the old school banking cycle and goes through SWIFT, and they charge a lot on exchange rate, and it takes time, and sometimes it even gets lost.
Yeah.
And so what we're finding now is it's kind of fragmented, right? Like there's so many crazy use cases globally, and we're trying to keep up with, okay, well, you want to start in the US, you want to pay out where? I mean, you know, US, Europe,
Right.
easy, right? But, you know, I'm working on like US to Colombia right now. So it's like not as easy, but all you need to do is basically figure out we're the regulated partner in, you know, US, UK, Europe, et cetera, and then you find a partner who can basically receive the stable coin, and then they have the bank connectivity to then push it into a bank for you.
Right.
But yeah, it's happening right now.
Well, I think you hit on something that kind of leads us into interoperability. And when you look at just the framework of the financial institutions now, with the potential of a new interoperable system, how does Uphold play into that a little bit there?
Well, basically the bridge, right? You know, so the way I think about it, and it's kind of simplistic, but you know, you have DeFi, and you know, if everybody had their money up
Right.
here, then gosh, everything would be really simple, right? But you know, it's only a fraction of us that are kind of like operating up here on the instantaneous movement of money. Where's all the money today? Well, it's in the traditional banks, right? So a lot of the hard part, the infrastructure to be able to move money from a bank, from the credit card system. I mean, there's something like 300 different types of you know, payment systems where people are holding their money and then trying to, you know, move it out of. We're about to launch with PayPal and Venmo, so you know, you could easily go from your PayPal balance, your Venmo balance, all accessible through APIs.
Right.
So to answer your question, we're that hopefully like helpful layer infrastructure provider that, you know, can work with somebody who, you know, doesn't have to go and like hire compliance people and get licenses and then do the deal with the bank and do this and that. It's like we've got all of that.
Yeah.
We already built all that. And so then we just want to find the right use cases and the right flows to, you know, move money that's here in the traditional to start to be interoperable with the DeFi layer,
Yeah.
the on-chain layer.
Well, and I think that's the key, because you're talking about all of the engines that are going to be needed there for major adoption, which
Yeah.
is the key for, I think, the growth, obviously, of the digital asset ecospace. When you look at it, Anthony, in the innovation that's happening with XRP Ledger right now, and the potential of new assets coming into the ecosystem, what you guys are doing, what's the process when someone tries to bring an asset in? We talked a little bit about that backstage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go into
So we work with really at grassroots levels with projects across all ecosystems. We do a really good job of that. So we develop relationships well before those assets list. But there's a bunch of stuff that we can help them with when they are ready to do so. So we obviously have a fantastic following and you know, a large retail base. So we can promote those projects to hopefully not spam you too much with them, but we can promote those projects as they launch. We can obviously list those tokens, and then we're working with projects at an early stage to support liquidity, because obviously projects at our early stage have liquidity issues.
Right.
We need to ensure as much as we can, we have to be responsible. So we go through, of course, we go through an entire listings process before we do this, to tick off lots of boxes, but we need to ensure that our customers can come out of if they want to buy into one, great, but they also need to come out of one as well. So we need to ensure there's sufficient liquidity there. So we will work with projects at a treasury level. We have a lot of projects who park a ton of their treasury with us, they trust us, and we use that treasury to help onboard and offboard clients to that token. So at an earlier stage than they might otherwise do if they had to wait for more organic growth.
So the flow of new projects coming into you right now, your team handles all of that,
Yeah, we
right?
do. Yeah, we've got, I think, around 20 projects coming over the horizon at the moment. We're very keen to work with the XRPL and projects that are coming up as well. And I know there's been a team here looking to reach out to those projects. So yeah, we're here, ready and able to bring them to our market to support them in that. How
will you scale? Because there's been a lot of traditional exchanges out there that have sometimes run into problems when you see these massive market uptakes, like what we might see with XRP Ledger.
Yeah.
How would you be able to scale that when you see that many projects wanting to list on Uphold?
Well, can I?
Please,
let's do a little back and forth.
You go
I'll
for it.
probably flail on the explanation, but one of the things different about Uphold is we have this really amazing liquidity structure. So, if you're just an exchange and you have an order book, you're just dealing with your own sort of activity. We're connected into every major exchange, and we even, co-locate servers so that we can, basically process faster.
That's the benefit of Uphold.
Yeah. And then also connected to DeFi exchanges. Why is that important? Because sometimes, if you're a new project, it's really hard to get listed on these exchanges. And so, you kind of get your following going through, the DEXs, right? Yep. And you get your traction through the DEXs. And most companies aren't connected to the DEXs the way that we are. Am I explaining it okay?
You are. I mean, it's that bridge concept you were talking about earlier. Yeah. So, we bridge not just CeFi, but DeFi as well. We're not an exchange. A lot of people think we're an exchange. We're not. We're the principal in the trade. So you come to us, you say, I want to buy some XRP. Right. We go to market and we ping 32 different venues, DeFi, CeFi, to get the best price, to get the deepest liquidity. So we're very, very flexible. And that's going to make us very attractive to what Robin was describing in terms of the white labeling of our business to other enterprises, because we're not it's not our own order book. So we're much more flexible and we're sort of unique in that way.
Yeah.
And doesn't an explanation with a British accent sound better? I think it does. Yeah.
Well,
I don't even know what he said.
So it's not necessarily.
Yeah. but back to scale. We just got a minute left because I want to talk about scale, because this is something that when you look at the crypto space, it's speed of light. I mean, you're talking about 24/7 here. Yeah. And scalability, especially at the level of listing quality projects, because your listing process has to go through.
It's very rigorous. Yeah. What we can't do is just go with the machine gun, scattergun effect, right? We have a very, very strict listings process. And often, projects still go bust, right? Yeah. Even when they make it through that process. But it's something that we're very, very keen on. We want to protect our customers. We don't want to expose our customers to issues. So there's a lot of legal and compliance checks in terms of how we do this. And I think, that's setting us up well probably for the next phase of regulation. We treat it almost as if it is
in place.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the best way to go. So we can't onboard an infinite number of projects, so we have to pick and choose. And hopefully we get that right and we bring the best projects to.
Well, and when this market structure bill gets into place, which I think is going to happen, that's going to create an absolute onslaught of new ideas, because there's going to be companies coming into the space that have never been here before. Right. And they have innovations and ideas and you guys would be the perfect, gateway for them to be able to launch.
Saying that. Yeah.
Indeed. So, that's why it's important for us to engage at an early stage with these projects. We want to know what's happening, what's coming down the line. We want to work with you well in advance. So that when the time is right, we can bring that project through our listing process.
I need to keep in touch with you, Anthony, so we can get some of those early projects into the market and really understand what they're doing out there.
Great.
We're gonna wrap up here, guys. So Anthony, Robin, big round of applause for them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, We'll see you guys in a bit.
Lynette Zhang is speaking in breakout room number 2 from 3 and 4:30. If you're interested, please make your way over. Also, all Shark Tank participants that have made it to the final round, please report to left of the conference stage by 3:45. Our next conversation will be discussing DeFi markets. From Gearin Labs, please welcome Rox Parks and moderator Mr. Quincy Jones. Thank you.
Do I sit over here?
Well then, how's everyone doing? Good? That's good, that's good. So we're here today with a friend of mine, Rox. Really cool project that I wanted to be able to elaborate on. Rox, would you want to tell the class what you've been working on and what makes it special?
Yeah, definitely. I'm Rox from Gearin Labs, and I'm currently building Gearin Wallet, and we're the fastest growing XRP wallet. We launched last December, and we will say we're the competitor of Zalman Wallet.
Interesting, interesting. So we spoke about this earlier backstage. You were talking about the future of DeFi, especially when it comes to wallets, users, whether it could be tokenization, how they utilize tokenization through these wallets. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I think you gotta go back to how the DeFi space is in XRP right now. So, XRP has been around for a long time, and there's huge, a lot of holders, trading volumes, but it's not being utilized that much on chain right now, right? And there's not much DeFi activities going on yet. And one of the reasons for that is there wasn't much programmability on the XRP ledger. So XRP ledger doesn't support smart contracts. So there's not some spaces or rooms to build